But no, I was out there, trying, because I wanted to be impressive there too. See, I wanted to be impressive socially and good at pool, and I was good at all the bar games because I was hanging out there too. So it was just it was a false thing. I had to find a way to bring value to who I was, and it's a hard game because you never win. It's never done.
And did that impress the ladies as well?
A few of them. You could fool a few of them. Yeah, I was probably more persistent. I found that if you could wear them down, if you asked them enough times, they'd finally say yes and go to lunch with you or go hang out with you a little bit. And I had a motorcycle back then, so maybe some of that bad boy image or whatnot was there. But again, all of that was just to impress my buddies, my boys. And I was not good at relationships in that sense either, because it was all, once she liked me, well, what's the point? I'm already won.
And how did you manage to avoid drugs and things like that growing up?
Too focused on being successful. So drugs couldn't come in, and crime, all stuff. I was going to be a lawyer or a doctor, depending on where in my life. No, I didn't want to be a loser. I hate to use that word, but I wanted to be. I didn't want to be on the bottom part of society. I wanted to be on the top. And if you're going to be on the top, you got to be in good shape. You got to get up early. You got to read a lot. You got to work. You got to make that happen. Those kind of things. And so I was driven in that sense, which kept me out of a lot of the junk that probably, some of my friends got into. My roommate, for example, didn't make it through college. He made it about 6 months and was in the hospital bed because of drugs and got shipped back home. Wow. He was from my high school. So, I was around it. It was close. I didn't cross that line, thankfully.
You did well in school, of course. You said you tried to impress your dad to do what he did, become a doctor, but you didn't really like it.
No. And so, and when he said it was okay, when he said, no, I wouldn't do what you're doing and let me out, buddy, I'm on. And remember, he changed my life with a sentence. That's how much I was hanging on the words of my earthly father. And I think that was, God used that later to see, will you hang on mine too? If I tell you something, are you going to listen to him? Because I wanted to please my father. I think every son, to some extent, and every daughter, right? We want to please our parents, our mother and father.
And of course, you decided to become a business. You went to be a law school.
Yes, sir.
And you became a litigator. Now, this is a very interesting part I'm interested in.
Okay.
Was it anything like the series on TV Suits?
Yeah, a little bit more like if you ever read the book The Firm. Did you ever read that?
I've seen the movie. Yeah, I've seen the movie. Yeah.
The movie, yeah. It was a grind. We were billing 250 to 260 hours a month. So that means you're billing, meaning actual time working for a client, more than 50 hours a week. So you'd have to put in 60 hours, 65 hours to make that happen. It was it's a tough, it's not for the faint of heart. And I'm not making fun of lawyers or any of that, but people that are willing to put that much effort into being successful, something's not right. That's too much. You don't have a family life. You don't have a social life. You don't have, anything. You're sacrificing everything for that one thing.
No, is there any particular memorable cases that you actually worked on?
Yeah. I've got 3 or 4 opinions in the Texas Criminal Reporter here in Dallas. I wrote them, but they were in somebody else's name, if that makes sense. The partners took the credit. But no, most of my stuff was big firms fighting other big firms, and the trial work was more hearings. It was not for me. I was going to leave it at that. It was not great. I don't know if you guys know very many lawyers, and it's a little different, I know, as the solicitors over there, but a lot of them are not very happy people. It's a very hard environment because it's all conflict, right? You're fighting all the time, and that can bring out some bad characteristics in you. And it was happening with me, character-wise. It was bringing out the fact that I was ready to fight everybody in terms of it and to win.
And being in court as a litigator, is it like what we see on TV coming from America, or is it just, is it boring and dull?
No. It's
not dramatic at all.
You don't have the Perry Mason say, and this letter I have, let me pull it off and solve the case. No, you can't do that. No, it's a whole lot more boring. In fact, I think we had the OJ trial here, 20 years ago or so. People watched it. And this is the most exciting case ever, right? You got a high profile football player. You got a supermodel. You got this weird guy, Caitlyn. You got this murder thing. And you watched it. It was like watching paint dry. I mean, it was terrible. So it's a little bit more overblown, I think, in the pictures than it is in reality.
So in the end, you said you walked out. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a strange thing. They came to me and said, "Hey, just take some time off. You know, everybody goes through this. You know, just take a break." And they didn't understand I was out because for the first time, something more than being just successful mattered. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy my life, and I'd never thought that before.
I see. So where did you go from there?
That's when I was doing some entrepreneurial things in real estate and network marketing, things like that, with these group of people that were all believers and all serious about their faith without me knowing it. And I think that's what that environment helped me see the values, if you will, of what Christ offers and what it meant to be really a Christian. Because before, Christians were just judgmental people who didn't like what I was doing. That's what that meant. Now I was like, no, those are great people. And if they don't like what I'm doing, it's because they're trying to help me. You know, they don't want me to be doing silly things because it's bad for me. Not to judge me, in other words, but to help me.
At the very beginning, you said you had no religious background whatsoever. I mean, did you not even do Sunday school, what school or anything like that? Nothing at all?
It was a secular private school. So we had chapel every week, but we had every speaker under the sun. I mean, we would have Muslim, Buddhist, political speaker, maybe a Christian. I mean, it was just everybody. So there was no affiliation directly with the school. So nothing other than just being generally around here, but I didn't go to church. I think I went to a church with a friend one time because I spent the night. And in the Bible study class, the teacher was asking if I'm a Jehovah's Witness, I guess because I was asking some questions or something. I don't know what I asked. I don't remember because I was a little kid, but apparently I must have sparked the Baptist Sunday school teacher a little bit.
Of course, the catalyst in this, the change of your life was the book that we were at, The Silent Witness.
Yes, sir.
You were about Lionel LeCoux, and you told us about Clarence Darrow as well. Yeah. So when you read that book, did you do any other studying? Did you read any of the Bible for evidence or anything like that?
No, and that's a good. You would think I would, right?
Yeah, as a litigator, you'd read other books.
I know. No, I that was the only real book they gave. They had me some other books that were, probably like John Maxwell things that were Christian but really business books. So I didn't pick up the faith part from those. It was really that, for me, I needed somebody to look me right in the eyes and say, "What are you going to do?
Yeah,
John, are you in or out?" And I'm kind of a black and white guy on that. And I'm like, I got to be in. I mean, it just the preponderance of the evidence, there's no way to be out.
He's coming. Jesus is coming. I can't wait to hear the trumpet call. He's coming. Jesus is coming. And when he comes, we'll crown him Lord of all. And when he comes, we'll crown him Lord of all.
Because to be out means there's no hope. There's no reason for life. It's all just a big mess. And that can't be. And then when you start, of course, the book did a lot more than that, right? You had a lot of witnesses and things coming up. So there's a lot of thought process. And then to meet the guy who was the most famous lawyer in the world, who I knew had done more research and more reading than I'd ever do, right? I mean, you have this confidence in certain people that they're smarter than you and can do more research than you can.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped. And then, of course, C.S. Lewis was a big part of my faith right after that. And of course, scripture itself. But the major book I read afterwards was a book called Mere Christianity. I think it's still one of the most popular ones out there, where it was a series of radio series that C.S. Lewis did. So kudos to you guys across the pond. He's one of my biggest fans. I'm one of his biggest fans because of what he wrote, and he's just super smart. And he helped me a lot put some things into place as I moved forward with my faith.
Okay, so this book, and you said that you become the judge at the end of the book. Did you want it to be true?
I think I did, but I wasn't thinking that. I mean, I wasn't thinking, gosh, I hope this is true. That's not what was happening. I think it's when you come to the question, I answered the question initially just, well, which is more likely true? I know that's kind of a silly thing, but in law, we have a thing called the preponderance of the evidence, meaning is it more likely that it happened or not? And I was like, well, this is more than preponderance. I mean, nobody denied it. They didn't understand it, or they tried to explain it away, but nobody says there's not anybody out in the thinking person that says there wasn't a Jesus Christ. There's more evidence in him historically than there is Julius Caesar. I mean, if you do any kind of research at all historically, there's nobody who says there wasn't a Jewish man named Herod. I mean, all these things are backed up. But then you'll have to come to the question and go, okay, if that what we don't like, or sometimes we think is, well, wait a minute, that means there's a God. And I wasn't going to discount the conclusion if the premises were true.
Mm-hmm.
I was focused on the premises. And I finally put them together that all these premises are true. A guy named Jesus lived. His disciples all died. They gave their lives for somebody that they believe rose from the dead. Nobody gives their life for a lie. No one's ever done that. People have lied all kinds of ways, religiously or in business, to get ahead, but no one gives their life for it. Nobody does that. And so you put all those things together and you go, this has to be true. The premises are there. And so from there, the love kicked in. I went, wait a minute. What that means is God loves me. Mm-hmm. It's not just A plus B equals C. What that also means is there's a family desiring me. There's a Jesus who's died for me, etc. So
you read the book, you looked at the evidence, you weighed it as a litigator, a lawyer, you balanced it out in your mind. Is it enough in your mind to be balanced out, or is there something else that's needed to be a Christian?
I think, I would say it this way, and I'm an old Southern boy, so just bear with me, but it was one big yes to God, and then a bunch of little uh-huhs, because you began discovering and finding other things about the faith as you go along that weren't part of your decision-making process originally, but flow from your first initial decision. By the way, that's how any great relationship works. You say yes to your wife or yes to your spouse. It's a big day. You don't know everything about them. You know enough that you're willing to go all in with this gal or this guy. And that's sort of what happened with God. I know enough to go all in. It's like business partners. A lot of times you don't know everything they've done, but you know enough about them to be willing to do a deal with them. And so you go all in. You make it good for them, good for you. So I don't know if that helps, but that's kind of how it played.
I know what you mean. Yep. So how did you feel then when you made that decision?
Well, candidly, it was one of the few times in my life I've cried. I'm not much of a crier. I'm developing it more now because I have teenage girls. That's another story. But it was one of the moments where I could not stop but physically react emotionally to what had happened. The only time that happened before that I can recall was when my mom died at her funeral. I was unable to handle at her funeral the closures that happened. This was the second time. And so I know it was real. It was something that was happening deep inside of me that I could not control. I couldn't have stopped crying if I wanted to, but it wasn't, and this is what's going to sound funny maybe to some of you manly men, but it wasn't a bad cry. It was almost like when you win and you cry.
Yeah.
At the same time,
Now, John, you're a fairly decent guy. You had a good job. You didn't drink that much and what have you. Why did you need Jesus?
Wow. That's looking back, because if you said, do you need Jesus at the time, I'd have said no. I don't. I'm great. And if there's a heaven, George, I'm there. I'm a heck of a great guy. I mean, God wants me in heaven. I had a healthy enough ego to probably think that way. Looking back, though, with more mature eyes, it was fake. It was a facade. It's an image you put up. We call it masks, right? Like a social media mask. Everything's perfect in my life. Everything goes great. We go on great trips. Our family is perfect. We never fight. The dog, never chews up socks or whatever. Everything's perfect in our world, which of course all is fake. And I think what's fun is when you can lay that down and it's okay. When you can lay it down and that's fine. Because how are you going to do that with God? I mean, what are you going to hide from God and put up a mask between you and the Father when He already knows in your heart? So there was a release or like a weight that's off your chest. Oh man, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to be this kind of person. That was a huge relief.
You did mention though at the time you felt like God, if you do something wrong, I'll smite you or whatever. But you said you found a mentor. Yeah. How important is it to have a mentor beside you?
This is something that to this day shocks me, because in business, in sports, in school, whatever, I always went to the guys that were smarter than me and gals. And I mean, that was just smart. It just made sense. And it's odd to me to find so many Christian brothers and sisters that don't do that. And I don't know why. And I couldn't have done it. Maybe they're stronger or just better at that. But he helped me so much because as I would read through things, I'd start thinking about God a certain way. He'd go, wait, you're leaving out these other, he would help me form the proper picture of God or how to rightly divide the word as I was going forward, but in a very patient way. I mean, my mentor literally never answered a question, ever. He always asked me another question. So if I said, I picked out one verse or something, he said, was there any other verses on the topic? And I'd say, well, yeah, there's this. He goes, okay. So what do you think now? And I'd say this. He'd say, okay, so are we done? I mean, he would literally do it that way because his goal was not to give me the answer, but was to show me how to get the answer. And the best example I could give you is those who know the Old Testament, the story of Samuel and Eli, where Eli tells him, go back and talk to God. Go back and say, God, I'm listening. That's what God's trying to speak to you, John. Or Samuel. And so Jay was very good at getting me to know that my father wants to speak to me and give me the answer, but he's always there to make sure I'm hearing rightly.
Now, you also said, I did what I said I would do. Were you always that type of guy?
I wanted you to think so. Right? I mean, in business, I'm not going to, and if I didn't, I had an excuse for it. Well, you did this, so my word's now void. I mean, come on, I was a good lawyer. I could lawyer I could make excuses and justify just about anything.
He's coming. Jesus is
Life Stories.
That was a character problem with me internally because I could change the rules as I went along and justify. That changed. When you have a God who, and this is going to sound, I know accountability is not a great word sometimes, but it really is if you know what it means. If you have a God who knows you so well that you cannot lie to him, you can't put one over on him. It is the best thing in the world. Because you don't have to worry about it anymore. You just got to go, God, I screwed up. I'm sorry. I did. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to get better. I'm going to move forward. And it's clean. You're clean from it. Instead of, okay, well, I kind of said that person, this to that person, and I'm showing this to that person. You got to build up this whole facade. It just, what a burden that is versus just coming clean. I love the verse that says his mercies are new every morning.
Amen.
God this morning forgave me for all the stupid stuff I did yesterday. And it's off his back and off mine, and we can kind of move forward now with a clean slate. That's just a wonderful thing about the way our Father works.
Now, at present moment, before we came on air, of course, you told us about Africa. What is it? Tell us a little bit about Africa and how you're involved there.
Well, you might be surprised to know this, but I'm not African. And
no, I've never guessed.
They look a little different, speak a little different. It's just to make the long story maybe somewhat short. I realized that in my giving and my time, my energies, nothing was spent on the places where the gospel is needed the most. I was serving my church, doing all kinds of things there locally, but nothing was affecting places that need to be affected. And that, whether that's South America or India or Africa, it doesn't matter. And as this would be, when God begins to prick our hearts on something, well, an opportunity came up to be introduced and connected with a ministry that's doing some work in the remotest parts of Africa. And there's a verse that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. And I emphasize the tense because most people say, well, I don't have a heart for Africa. Well, neither did I. I wasn't doing anything for it. But what I did was I began putting treasure there. And then guess what happened?
You got a heart for it.
And Jesus is giving us a trick there, I think, to show us when we know we ought to have a heart for something, whatever it is, we'll put some time, energy, and effort into it, put some research into it, put some money into it, and God will lead your heart that direction. And I think many Christians, we settle for a less than optimal life because God's giving us these once in a lifetime opportunities for greatness, like to really step into something that will make a difference forever. Like, lots of people. And we make excuses, but well, God just hasn't told me to do it. Well, God didn't tell Peter to walk on water either. He asked. And because he asked, he got to walk on water.
Amen.
And sometimes we have to stand up and ask, God, can can I be a part of this thing that I know is you? Can I be a part of it? It's funny how he says yes a lot.
Now, rumor has it also that you present radio. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a time for a few years, the radio station went out of business, sold to a corporation, but I did some radio on Sunday afternoon, as the drive time host. A lot of fun, getting to share some of the worship music and some of the teaching and encouraging people. And it's funny, they'd say radio is kind of a dying thing. Still has a really good place. There's still a lot God's doing with different kinds of media, like we're doing tonight. Right? Lots of new media.
Yeah, we can testify to that, because we're just going into radio ourselves, actually, with our podcast.
Way to go. All I can tell you is go, man, go.
Did anybody ever tell you had a face for radio?
Yeah, I'm aware of that joke.
I've had that one as well.
Yeah. I got a face for radio and a voice for TV, right?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. John, it's been fantastic speaking with you. You've told us I love your enthusiasm, by the way. It's infectious. And you've made lots of decisions in your life. And I asked this question of all the guests. Of all the decisions you made in your life, what is the best decision you've ever made?
Wow. So let me answer it in two ways. I hope I don't ruin your question. Obviously, it starts with saying yes to Jesus. It starts with getting in the game. But I just want to say this. I'm not saying there's a second experience or a second salvation. None of that's true. But when you can come to Romans 12:1 and say, therefore, submit yourself to God all in. Because when I said yes to Jesus, I was just saying yes, but I really didn't know what I was saying yes to, like all of it, all that God had for me then. So for us as believers, I think that next decision where we really, they say this, the most important 2 days of your life are when you're born again and when you find out why you're born again. Why does God have you here? That's that Romans 12 verse. And so if you're not a believer, the most important decision ever is becoming one, is jumping into the family. If you are a believer, the most decision you can make is, Lord, it's all yours. I'm all in. My whole life is yours. Now, I'm not going to give you 10%. I'm not going to tip you. I'm all in with what you have. And that opens up the door to just everything God has for you. And it's just amazing.
Well, thank you, John, so much for speaking to Life Stories Worldwide. Your story, of course, will be broadcast worldwide again and again and again. So thank you very much for that. And with that, I'm just going to hand back to Alan.
Thank you, George. Thank you, John. Wow, it's been wonderful hearing you share today. It's been wonderful all the way you explain so many different things and how you've answered George's questions in such a wonderful way. We do appreciate you being with us. I know you're a very busy man, but thank you. And just let you know that 2 people already have clicked the salvation prayer link today. And also, I just want to know that Lionel Q, I count him as a dear friend. We shared together in a convention in Papua New Guinea and also in Fiji. And he gave me that book, Silent Witness. Wonderful book, yeah. So
great man.
A great man he was. We thank God for him. And
have you read the book yet, Alan?
Sorry, George?
Have you read the book yet?
Yes, I have, yes. Yes, I have. Oh, yeah.
Have you made the right decision, Alan?
Sorry?
Did you make the right decision?
Oh, I'd made it before that. But thanks so much. Thank you so much for being with us. So it's been great having you with us all today. Please let me encourage you to go to our phone line if you need help, +44 794 355 0287, or go again to our website, LifeStoriesWorldwide.com. And there again, you will find lots of information that will help you. Let me tell you again, on the YouTube channel, these stories can be viewed time and time again. And we do encourage you to become a subscriber, but also tell your friends. Tell all your friends, all your neighbors, all about these programs. Every Monday, 8 o'clock on UK time, on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. And I want to encourage you to join us next Monday, 8 o'clock, again, UK time, for another life story on Life Stories Worldwide, this time from Scotland. A man called Ryan Longmuir. Ryan had a really misspent youth. He got involved in drugs, and he was even caught importing drugs into New Zealand. But his life changed, and now he's got a big business. He has a banqueting business, employs 30 part-time staff and about 90 part-time, a big business that God has brought him into, also hiring camper vans. I know Melanie might be interested in that. She's watching. So thank you all for being with us again today. May God bless you. May you know the peace which passes all human understanding, and may the joy of Jesus fill your hearts. Bye, everyone.
God bless.
Bye.
He's coming. Jesus is coming. I can't wait to hear the trumpet call. He's coming. Jesus is coming. And when he comes, we'll crown him Lord.